There are moments that change everything. Unexpected, unfiltered, and impossible to ignore. When a child stands up and, with wisdom beyond their years, exposes a truth that adults feared to pronounce, the world stops to listen. That's exactly what happened when Riley Curry, at just 10 years old, decided to defend her family in a way that no one expected. What did she say, and why did her words cause such an impact? Keep watching as we reveal the surprising statement that left even Steph and Ayesha Curry speechless. From the moment Riley Elizabeth Curry made her first impromptu appearance at a press conference alongside her father, NBA superstar Steph Curry, the world knew she was different. At only 2 years old, she stole the spotlight with her unfiltered charm, interrupting reporters and playfully commanding everyone's attention. It was a moment unlike any other in the typically rigid world of post-game press conferences, where players deliver rehearsed answers under the glare of cameras. Riley had no script, just pure improvised joy. While Steph answered questions from the press, Riley laughed and played hide-and-seek under the table, and at one point even leaned into the microphone to say, "Be quiet," eliciting laughter throughout the room. This wasn't just a fleeting moment of internet fame. What seemed like a cute one-time occurrence would soon prove to be the first glimpse of a young girl who would one day surprise everyone with her maturity and clarity. In the years that followed, Riley continued to enchant the world with her authentic personality. Each public appearance, each smile, each spontaneous moment alongside her father only solidified the place she had already won in fans' hearts. There was something genuinely magnetic about little Riley, a rare quality that couldn't be taught or rehearsed. With each Warriors' victory, the public didn't just wait to celebrate with Steph. They waited to see if Riley would appear, bringing her contagious joy and unforgettable moments. The girl became, without realizing it, a symbol of authenticity in a world where everything seemed carefully orchestrated for the cameras. Unlike many celebrity children who are sheltered from the relentless glare of the public eye, Riley Curry's upbringing was a careful balance between public visibility and privacy. From the beginning, Steph and Ayesha Curry made a conscious effort to allow their children to experience the world authentically. Riley wasn't just the daughter of a basketball legend. She was part of a family that represented excellence, hard work, and values. Her father, a generational talent in the NBA, wasn't known just for his three-point shots, but for the way he represented the sport with integrity. Her mother, Ayesha, a culinary entrepreneur, author, and television personality, built a career celebrating family and food. As Riley grew, she became increasingly aware of her family's unique position in American culture. She observed, with attentive eyes, how her parents navigated the constant media scrutiny. For Riley, this meant a different kind of education. She learned not just math and science in school, but also invisible lessons about how the world perceives public figures. Her educational experiences included observing how headlines could distort reality, how an innocent comment could transform into a storm, and how her parents maintained their integrity even when the world tried to force them into simplified narratives. During family nights, when cameras weren't around, Riley absorbed the values her parents demonstrated: honesty, resilience, and the importance of remaining true to oneself. Without realizing it, she was developing a deep understanding of the difference between public perception and private truth, between hasty judgments and lived reality. In 2024, Ayesha Curry found herself at the center of a media frenzy after making what she thought was a lighthearted comment on a popular talk show. During a conversation about long-term marriages, Ayesha shared a humorous observation. "Sometimes I feel like I need a vacation from my marriage," she laughed, adding that, Balance is everything. The comment was made in a joking tone among friends, the kind of light conversation that happens every day. However, social media transformed the moment into something much more serious. Within hours, clips of her observation flooded the internet. Platforms exploded with reactions, some in support, but many harshly critical. People began obsessively analyzing her words, questioning the strength of her relationship with Steph, and suggesting problems in their marriage. Memes emerged portraying her as an ungrateful wife, and some accused her of publicly disrespecting her husband. In the storm that followed, few stopped to consider the full context. No one mentioned the 12 years of happy marriage, the public displays of affection, or the family empire that Steph and Ayesha built together. Instead, every word was dissected and reinterpreted to fit a more dramatic and clickable narrative. For the Curry family, the experience was disturbing. For the first time, Riley saw her mother, always strong, always resilient, visibly shaken by online comments. She noticed how Ayesha tried to hide the tears while reading messages on her phone. She saw her father, normally unshakable under the pressure of NBA Finals, with an expression of concern he rarely showed at home. At night, Riley heard fragments of worried conversations coming from her parents' bedroom. "Maybe I should make a statement," her mother's voice said. "This will pass. Don't feed into it," her father responded. For a child who had grown up seeing her parents as models of strength, these small cracks in their armor were disturbing. It was in this climate of veiled tension and unspoken worry that Riley began to form her own understanding of the situation. Each headline she saw, each whispered conversation she heard, each moment of sadness she perceived on her mother's face. All of this accumulated in her young mind, forming a resolution that no one could predict. It was during a Golden State Warriors family event, a tradition of celebration and unity that happened annually, that the unexpected occurred. The hall was decorated in blue and yellow, filled with players, family members, executives, and carefully selected media representatives. It was a supposedly safe environment, a controlled bubble, where the Warriors family could celebrate away from the chaos of social media. Riley was sitting between her parents, wearing a blue dress that matched her father's suit. Her dark curls were adorned with a golden headband, and her eyes observed everything with the characteristic curiosity that always accompanied her. She seemed calm, just another child at an adult event, swinging her legs that still didn't reach the floor. The evening's program proceeded as planned. Speeches from the coach, acknowledgments, some rehearsed laughter. Ayesha smiled, but Riley, with her heightened sensitivity to her mother's emotions, could see it wasn't the complete smile that lit up her eyes at home. It was a professional smile, carefully kept in place despite the inner storm. It was during a brief interval between speeches that it happened. The microphone was momentarily unsupervised on the stage, while organizers prepared the next presentation. Without saying a word to her parents, Riley rose from her seat. Steph and Ayesha, engaged in a conversation with a teammate beside them, didn't immediately notice their daughter's absence. Riley's small figure crossed the space between the tables, her determination visible in each step. Some heads turned, watching with curiosity what the NBA star's daughter was doing. She climbed the steps to the stage without hesitation, as if following an inner calling that couldn't be denied. When Riley reached the microphone, adjusting it to her height with the familiarity of someone who had observed adults doing the same countless times, a gradual silence began to spread through the room. Steph noticed the movement first, his body instantly tense. He touched Ayesha's arm, who looked up, her eyes widening at seeing her daughter on stage. There was no time for interventions, for hasty corrections, for adults rescuing the situation. Riley Curry, with the composure of someone 3 times her age, adjusted the microphone, took a deep breath, and looked directly at the sea of now completely silent and attentive faces. "Hi, I'm Riley," she began, her voice small but surprisingly firm, echoing through the speakers. "I don't usually talk into microphones, only when I'm singing karaoke at home with my mom." A wave of soft laughter traveled through the audience, the kind of nervous laughter that accompanies unexpected moments. On Ayesha's face, worry and confusion mingled. Steph seemed frozen, unable to decide whether he should intervene or allow the moment to unfold. Riley continued, her dark eyes now serious, her voice gaining strength with each word. "But today I wanted to say something important. Something about my mom, and about things people are saying on the internet." The smile disappeared from Ayesha's face, replaced by an expression of shock and vulnerability rarely seen in public. Steph instinctively placed his arm around his wife's shoulders, his eyes never leaving his daughter on stage. "My mom made a joke," Riley said, her voice trembling slightly before steadying again. "She said something funny about needing a vacation sometimes, and now people on the internet are very angry with her." Riley paused, her eyes scanning the room. She looked so small up there, alone on stage, but her presence filled the space in a way that seemed impossible for someone of her size. "I know what a joke is," she continued, a crystalline wisdom in her expression. "I know the difference between when someone is really sad and when someone is just playing around. Every day in my house there are jokes. My dad makes jokes. My mom makes jokes. I make jokes. That's how we show love." The words of a child, so simple and direct, began to touch something deep in those present. Journalists who had entered ready to capture any tension between the Curry couple now found themselves disarmed by Riley's authenticity. "My mom's joke wasn't about disrespect," she said, her voice now firm and clear as a bell. "It was about being human enough to laugh with your family." She paused, her eyes finding her mother's in the audience. "Real disrespect comes from people who try to destroy a marriage they know nothing about." At that moment, the first tears began to fall silently down Ayesha's face. They weren't tears of shame or sadness, but of deep recognition. Her daughter, her little Riley, was there, defending the truth with a purity that no press release could ever achieve. Steph wasn't in better shape, his eyes shining with contained tears as he watched his firstborn face a situation no parent would want their child to have to face. Riley wasn't finished. With a gleam of determination in her eyes, she continued, "I see my parents every day. Not just when there are cameras. I see them when they're tired, when they're happy, when they're worried." Her voice gained an almost musical quality, the rhythm of her words casting a spell over everyone present. "When you grow up seeing true love every day," she said, a surprising maturity in each syllable, "you know the difference between a joke and an offense. I see how my dad looks at my mom when she's not paying attention. I see how my mom keeps newspaper clippings of all my dad's important games. I see how they dance in the kitchen when they think no one is watching." The entire room seemed to be collectively holding its breath. The photographers, normally eager to capture any moment, seemed hesitant, as if they were witnessing something too sacred to be transformed into content. "I know people like to talk," Riley continued, her voice now softer, almost confidential, making everyone lean slightly forward. "But they don't know what it's really like. Nobody knows what our home is like, except us." She made a final pause, her eyes scanning the room one last time before landing again on her parents. My mom is the strongest and kindest person I know. And if she needs to make a joke sometimes to keep being strong for all of us, then that's not disrespect." Riley adjusted the microphone, her small hand sure and decided. "That's love." The silence that followed was almost palpable. It wasn't the uncomfortable silence of a social gaffe, but the reverent silence that follows a truth so pure it cannot be questioned or diminished. It was the silence of adults being reminded by a child of what really matters. When Riley finally descended from the stage, her steps deliberate and her head held high, no one dared to break the moment with applause. It was as if a spell had been cast, and no one wanted to be the first to break it. Steph was the first to move, rising to receive his daughter as she returned to the table. His eyes were red, and there was a vulnerability on his face that was rarely seen, even in the most intense moments of a decisive game. He knelt to Riley's level, his large hands gently holding her small shoulders. "Riley," he whispered, his voice choked with emotion he didn't try to hide. "My God, Riley." Ayesha joined them, her tears now flowing freely, leaving shining trails on her perfectly made-up face. She didn't care about the cameras, the looks, what people would say afterward. In that moment, there was only her daughter, so small and yet so strong, who had stood up for her in a way that no one else could. Ayesha knelt too, forming a small family circle in the middle of the crowded hall. She took Riley's face between her hands, her eyes searching her daughter's. "Baby," she whispered, her voice trembling with emotion, "how did you get so wise?" Riley shrugged, a gesture so childlike and natural that it further highlighted the contrast between her physical age and the maturity of her words. "I just told the truth, Mom," she replied, with the simplicity that only a child could offer. "Like you and Dad always taught me." Steph wrapped both of them in his arms, creating a cocoon of family love in the middle of the event. The photographers present, even the most experienced, felt a lump in their throats. This wasn't a moment staged for social media. It was a genuine glimpse of the foundation that sustained the Curry family. Unconditional love, mutual support, and a truth that transcended the narratives constructed by the media. When they finally separated, returning to their seats, something had changed in the atmosphere. The event continued, the formal speeches resumed, but there was an authenticity in the air that couldn't be manufactured or ignored. Later that night, when a reporter asked Steph about the moment, he just smiled, his eyes still emotional. "Riley has always seen the world in a special way," he said simply. "Today she reminded us what really matters. Not the headlines, not the online comments, but the truth we live every day." I think we all needed that reminder. Ayesha, by his side, just nodded, words still difficult to find. She reached out and intertwined her fingers with Steph's, the silent gesture saying more than any elaborate statement could. Riley's words quickly transcended the walls of that hall. The moment, captured on video by several attendees, began to circulate online even before the event ended. What was previously a controversy about Ayesha's comment completely transformed. Platforms that had been the stage for fierce criticism of Ayesha now overflowed with reflections on how we judge public figures, on the wisdom of children, and on the difference between public perception and private reality. Riley Curry's eloquence at 10 years old surpasses that of many professional commentators, wrote a prominent cultural critic who days before had questioned Ayesha's commitment to her marriage. Perhaps it's time to ask ourselves why we're so eager to transform casual comments into marital crises. Mothers from across the country shared the video, many admitting through tears that they themselves had made similar jokes about needing a vacation from their own marriages or families. "If my daughter ever defends me the way Riley defended Ayesha, I'll know I did something right as a mother," became a common sentiment among the comments. Child development experts appeared on morning shows to discuss how children raised in emotionally secure environments develop an intuitive understanding of nuances that many adults seem to lose. What we saw with Riley Curry was the result of being raised in an environment where emotions are openly discussed, where humor is valued, and where truth is fundamental, explained a renowned psychologist. She wasn't reading a script, she was sharing her lived reality. The hashtag #HowRileyKnew began to circulate, with people sharing moments when children in their lives demonstrated surprising wisdom that helped bring perspective to complex situations. Perhaps most significant was how the moment changed the conversation about the Currys. Critics who previously dissected every interaction of the couple now seemed hesitant, confronted with the possibility that their hasty judgments could actually cause harm to a real family, with real children who heard and understood more than adults realized. Riley Curry's unexpected moment offers us much more than a viral video or a touching story. It presents us with a mirror, revealing our rush to judge, our tendency to forget that public figures are real people, and our willingness to transform human moments into manufactured controversies. In a world where comments are ripped from their context like flowers from a garden, only to wither under the heat of public scrutiny, where relationships are analyzed through seconds-long clips as if they were specimens under a microscope, and where online outrage spreads faster than understanding, perhaps we all need the direct honesty of a child. Riley reminded us that behind every joke taken out of context, there is a real family. Behind every sensationalist headline, there are children who are watching, absorbing, understanding, and perhaps, as she demonstrated so eloquently, these children often understand the difference between what is real and what is manufactured better than many adults. As a 10-year-old girl showed us, sometimes true disrespect isn't in a joke shared among family, but in the way strangers presume to know the truth about relationships they have never witnessed up close. Perhaps wisdom isn't in our insightful online comments, but in a child's ability to see the simple truth behind all the complexity that adults construct. May Riley Curry's words not just be a touching moment that we share and then forget, but a permanent reminder that, sometimes, the deepest truths come from the youngest voices. And perhaps, if we listen carefully enough, we can all relearn to see the world through those eyes uncontaminated by the cynicism that adulthood often brings. What did you learn from Riley's words? How did this change your perception of online judgments? And more importantly, what simple truth might you have lost sight of in your own life that I bet a child could easily see? Share your thoughts and reflections in the comments.